Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. In this video, I'm going to be going over a poison spectral throw Pathfinder I made in Crucible solo self-found league. Because I dropped an Emperor's Vigilance in solo self-found, and I figured, well, I need to try and build around it, but I did not have the things to make what normal spectral shield throw builds are doing with converting everything to cold, going like big crit shatters and whatnot. I had a Ming's Heart. I had Obliteration. I had a Sin's Rebirth, Corralito's Signature, and so instead, I turned this into a Poison Spectral Throw Pathfinder. So I will go over all of the gear and everything after I show you what's going on in this map here. So what is really nice about this build is it can stack poisons very, very effectively. Clearing with this build is fantastic. It is not nearly good against single target in any form. So if I just have one normal enemy here, it's going to do way worse. Where this build really shines is allowing all of the shards to pierce through big chains of enemies, and then we get a lot of poisons off because all of these shards will pierce through all of these enemies. But if there is not extra enemies for the shield to ricochet through and cause extra shards, you're only hitting one target. Like this guy right here. It's going to take me a couple hits. Well, he got poisoned and died, but if there's lots of hits, like, they all ricochet and poison, just like that, as is planned. So it's pretty satisfying. I'm also using Eldritch Battery here. I can use Malevolence to gain a big chunk of extra damage there, as I'm running Grace and Haste. My main links, here's a single target. Single target is a pain because there's not extra things to chain to, but I am running Sniper's Mark with this, so it causes the shield to split and sometimes get extra stuff there. Pop my Malevolence. I also have a Tornado, and the purple Tornado is so fantastic to look at. It's extra poison damage as well. Ooh, Einhar's Memory of Harvest Beasts. That's a big find. Worth quite a lot in Trade League, but SSF as well. It's also very nice to have. But yeah, this is how the build works. With the Obliteration Wand as my weapon, it's causing me to have a chance to explode enemies. And, like, I also have the Plague Bearer I haven't used. I have a Withering Step that I can use. Plague Bearer is good for single target for some extra damage when you don't have the things to chain into. Got some big poisons off on that enemy. Okay, here's the boss. I'm going to hit the Malevolence. I'm going to hit the Plague Bearer. Hit the Withering Step just to try and, like, I forgot the Tornado. Tornado helps too, but there we go. There's a map clear with it. We'll fight a boss at the end of the video to see how that goes. So, but let's go over the build in its entirety. So, Emperor's Vigilance is by far the best in slot for any Spectral Shield Throw build because it has like more armor than you can really get on anything else, but glancing blows as well. So, a lot of Spectral Shield Throw builds are going to be based in the bottom right side of the tree, nowhere near a lot of good block nodes. So, glancing blows allows you to like double your attack and spell block, but you take a percentage damage from those blocked hits. But damage taken from unblocked hits always bypasses energy shield. So if I had energy shield and I get hit by something I didn't block, it would bypass all this energy shield if it was protecting my life anyways. So having that moved over with an Eldritch Battery works really nicely. Plus I get an extra aura out of the build and don't have to worry about mana regen when casting all of my skills. So, for my weapon, I mentioned I'm using an Obliteration Wand. This gives me a bunch of physical as extra chaos damage and a chance to explode enemies dealing a quarter of their max life as chaos damage. Now this was made in Crucible League, so I have some Crucible trees here. I'm getting endurance charge on kill, a little bit of extra accuracy, flat fire to attacks, doesn't really help. I actually dropped 2 of these shields. This one's giving me like 20 flat armor. That was the best I got on Emperor's Vigilance shield. The other one didn't have a good Crucible tree either, so I didn't get any of this super spicy nonsense that people were getting on these shields, trying to chance them into an Emperor's Vigilance in Crucible League. So next there's the Ming's Heart. Ming's Heart also gives a bunch of physical as extra chaos damage. This is also doubling down on all of the flat damage I get from Spectral Throw given the Emperor's Vigilance shield. The downside here is that this has 25% reduced max life in it. So if I take this ring off, my life goes to almost 4,300. So this is a big downside on life, but big upside on damage. Also get a bunch of chaos resist off of this ring. Very, very nice there. So the last unique piece of gear I'm using here is a Cospri's Will. This allows me to always be able to poison on hit against cursed enemies and allows my hexes to affect hexproof enemies. So this is the first time I've ever used a Cospri's Will chest for the poison on hit. So I'm not spec'd into poison chance at all. And instead I have a Hunter ring here with cursed enemies with despair on hit. So every enemy I hit is going to get cursed with despair, even if it's a hexproof map, and I always will poison on hit against those cursed enemies. So that is how I'm poisoning stuff without really investing into the poison chance. So the rest of the gear is life resists, some strength that I probably need. We got some movement speed, life resists, chance to gain onslaught on kill here. Amulet has life and resists, bunch of strength. I'm anointing corruption, increased effective withered. And then helmet, I have a helmet chant for Spectral Shield Throw, fires 3 additional shard projectiles, and then more life resists and a bunch of rarity here as well. Now let's look at Spectral Shield Throw. So the big thing here is that you get added flat physical damage per 15 armor or evasion rating on shield. And since this shield comes with so much energy shield, which is a nice boon to the character, it has tons of armor. So armor gives a lot of flat damage to Spectral Shield Throw, making all this really work. So it also says when it collides with something, it will shatter, launching a number of smaller shards as projectiles in all directions. Increasing the number of projectiles increases the number of shards, not copies of the shield. So when you throw the shield, when it hits something, it launches the shards, but it will only chain through enemies or this. I think it can chain through the tornado, but it's kind of wonky to get done. You need multiple enemies there to hit, but if against a single target, I have the tornado, I can chain like between the tornado and the enemy to get extra shards out, as the shards are doing a lot of the damage. So for the gem links, I have this linked with Critical Strike, Affliction, Vicious Projectiles, Deadly Ailments, Void Manipulation, and Unbound Ailments. So Critical Strike Afflictions makes this so support skills have a ton of extra damage over time multiplier from critical strikes. So this is actually a crit build, but not to do extra damage with crits, but instead to turn that crit multi into damage over time multiplier. Vicious Projectiles gives me more chaos damage over time, more projectile attack damage. Deadly Ailments lowers the damage of my hits, but more damage with the poisons, more chaos damage, and more poison duration with Unbound Ailments. In my wand, I have Malevolence linked with Inspiration and Divine Blessing. This is what causes me to be able to get the Malevolence aura here. Running Inspiration here makes it cost less, so it only costs 581 mana. Currently, if I take Inspiration out, it's 773 with the level 20 Divine Blessing. Inspiration is really nice to help out with that. In my helmet, I have a Sniper's Mark linked with Mark on Hit and a Chain. I guess this chain was here as I was testing with things. Chain isn't needed here. And I also have a Steel Skin. I have Tornado and Enduring Cry in my shield, linked with the faster casting on the Tornado so I can get that out faster. I'm not scaling cast speed, so the cast time on the Tornado is kind of slow. You want to be able to get that out pretty quickly. In the boots, I have Haste, I have Grace, I have a maxed out level 20 Precision, and I have a 20/20 Flame Dash. So I do have Shield Charge, that I can move around, but the flame dash so I can get up and down ledges when needed. In my gloves, that's where my shield charge is. That's where I have my plague bearer and a withering step. Both of those are linked with increased area of effect. So the withering step, I can apply withers when using that in that big area of effect. And the plague bearer, I can't show that off here, but it's kind of the same in green visual rig, though it'll build up as you poison enemies and you can deal damage with that. Anything else here? My searching eye jewel has life, dex int. That is a pretty bad jewel, but it looks like I need the int that's on this jewel to fit in the wand. The wand requires 188 intelligence, so I needed to get intelligence, so that's probably why that is there. The only thing I haven't touched on is the Eater and Elder implicits. So here I have increased duration of ailments on enemies and physical damage taken recouped as life on the helmet. On the boots, I got more physical damage as extra chaos, and I dropped brittle ground while moving. This increases the base critical strike chance from the Spectral Shield throw if an enemy is on it. So a crit chance is only 5% on the Spectral Shield throw. So on brittle ground, that will increase it by 2. So I'll give my base crit up to 7%. And on gloves, while unique enemies in your present withered inflicted expires slower, and increased chance for critical strikes or attacks on the gloves. For my flasks, I got a Corrupting Blood flask, I have a Phasing flask with attack speed, and I have a Sin's Rebirth, which gives Unholy Might during effect. Unholy Might gives 30% of physical damage as extra chaos damage. Kind of further down with the Ming's Heart, the Obliteration, Fizz is extra, Fizz is extra, Fizz is extra chaos. It's all good. Correlito's signature gives chance to poison on hit during effect, gives crit chance. Your critical strikes do not deal extra damage during effect, but 30% dot multi for poison from critical strikes during effect. And Quicksilver Flask with some reduced effective curses. Now, let's get into the passive tree. Pathfinder was reworked in Crucible League so that now we have a way for a life flask to not be removed when unreserved life is filled. So that means I can stand here, press my life flask, and I will have this regen up for the entire duration of the flask, even though my life is full. It's a very big thing that is now on a Pathfinder. Also gaining 3 charges every 3 seconds from Nature's Adrenaline on my flasks. And the other 2 notes here are for poison. So when you kill a poisoned enemy during any flask effect, nearby enemies are poisoned, and I have a 20% chance to deal 100% more damage with poison during flask effect, as well as a 25% chance to inflict withered on hit, and 50% increased effect of withered. So that is an extra 3% increased chaos damage taken applied to enemies per wither stack. So that's up to 9 there. And on my amulet, I'm anointed corruption for an extra 20%, so that's an extra 1. So if I can stack wither then up to 15 times, that becomes, each withered stack then becomes a 10% increased chaos damage taken, so up to 150% increased chaos damage taken on max withered stacks by getting corruption here. So moving on to the passive tree, I probably went through some projectile damage here to start this off, but eventually min-max the tree to come down through this dex here. Still come up for Heart of Oak and Primal Spirit. Primal Spirit's really good for a source of strength and intelligence, and then getting life here is really nice. Finesse is extra attack speed and accuracy. Field Medicine, increase the life recovery from flasks, and life flask gain a charge when you hit an enemy. So I can actually build my own life flask charges back up by grabbing Field Medicine. Really cool node there. Coming down to the left, up here I have a Seething Fury Viridian Jewel. Now this is really important to make Spectral Shield Throw work, and another reason why Emperor's Vigilance is so good a shield. So this has increased attack damage while holding a shield, and then I get increased base crit per 10 max ES on the shield, and offhand crit multiplier per 10 energy shield on equipped shield. So there's 373 energy shield here. So 0.15 times 37 is an extra 5.55 base crit chance. So that pushes the base crit up to 10.55, while on Brittle Ground 12.55. So then you would only need like 800 crit chance to get to max at that point. So it's really fantastic. And this extra crit multi, 4 times 37. So with this shield, that's 148 crit multi. So it's very, very nice, like why a lot of people do the cold conversion sort of thing, and you're getting shatters because you have big crit chance and multi. But instead here, I use that to get poison stuff, and I'll get to there. But up here, I have profane chemistry, life flasks, gain 1 charge every 3 seconds, extra life recovery from flasks, bettering the use of this enduring life flask, even though that Master Surgeon has less life recovery from flasks. So that is really cool. And I grab Mage Bane here so that all my dexterity will apply to spell suppression instead of evasion rating. Now I pushed over to the left here to get to Defiance. This increases defenses from equipped shield. This gives me a bunch of extra armor and extra attack block for the glancing blows and increased damage while holding a shield. That's nice. Some life regen here, life along the way, extra attack speed and accuracy with Art of the Gladiator. Pushing down here, Wisdom of the Glade, 32 intelligence. I need that intelligence, as you saw with the jewel on my belt. Grab Dazzling Strikes, increase critical strike chance against blinded enemies, chance to blind enemies on hit, additional crit chance against blinded enemies here as well. Marked for Death, Culling Strike against marked enemies. Marked enemies cannot regenerate life, which is very nice. Marked enemies grant increased flash charges to you on the minor passives there. Pushing to the left, Dirty Techniques. This node is getting changed in the upcoming patch. It will, instead of the increased damage over time multiplier for ailments, it is only going to be for damaging ailments, deal damage faster, as well as the points on the way there. So this will be 5% faster damage with ailments, 5% faster, 15% faster, but 25% faster damage with ailments here. And the mastery will still be increased, still affect duration and duration of ailments on enemies. That'll give you more poison damage there. And then I grab Retaliation. This is a lot of increased defenses from equipped shield. So I'm actually getting a lot of armor out of that shield, as well as a little bit of extra block and extra crit multi per 10 max energy shield on the shield with the shield mastery. Really important. Grab Thick Skin, more life, chance to avoid ailments. Long Shot increases projectile speed. Lethality gives extra crit chance and multi. I need the crit chance more than I need the multi here on the left side. So I went the right side for the extra 25% crit chance there. Continuing along, get Herbalism, 15% increased max life if there are no life modifiers on equipped body armor. There are no life modifiers on a Osprey's will, so that's an extra 15% life there, as well as grabbing Intuition for the life evasion spell suppression. Continuing up, accuracy and attack speed and acuity. I don't have the crit chance here into Heartseeker. I guess I just didn't find enough passives for those. But another big thing here is getting projectiles pierce additional targets. So I'm getting 3 pierce by grabbing piercing shots. So that means when my shield ripples through a pack of enemies, all of the shards that get launched off will launch through 3 enemies each. So I get extra spray, extra coverage out of the shards there. And this mastery gives more projectile speed, which causes them to go further. So the more projectile speed I have, the more range all of those shard projectiles have. So if lower projectile speed, the shard's not going to launch out to here. It might launch out to just this point instead. So it gives it the most clearing range by getting some extra projectile speed there. Then I have some more spell suppression. Inveterate, chance to suppress spell damage is lucky because I am not capped on spell suppression. It is currently sitting at 73%. So it's not all the way there. So that's why I took the mastery for lucky spell suppression. And here's the big keystone, Perfect Agony. Modifiers to critical strike multiplier also apply to damage over time multiplier for ailments from critical strikes at 50% of their value, and I deal less damage with hits. So all of the crit multi that I have currently only showing 365 multi here, which I think is wrong. I feel like that should be higher. But the point is that 365 multi divided by 2 is 182% damage over time multiplier for ailments, as long as I can hit the critical strike, right? So if I can get the critical strike, I'm doing way more poison damage with the hits from having Perfect Agony. Did you want to up? Mark the Prey. Marked enemies taking increased damage have reduced accuracy, increased damage with hits and ailments against marked enemies, so this is increased poison damage, and a chance to gain Friggy Charge when you hit marked enemy. Blood Drinker recovers life on kill, 50 life there. And then there's the long journey up. Grab Written in Blood for a little bit of extra life. Then the whole point of going up here is for Eldritch Battery, so that I can get this Malevolence in off of my energy shield there. Last little bit here is pushing to the left, grabbing Thief's Craft because I need the int for the wand, and grabbing Charisma so that I can fit all of these auras in with the Precision, Grace, Haste. Without these nodes, I can't do it. You'd only be able to run Grace and Haste, let alone leveling up a Precision to its max level. So we get that extra mana reservation efficiency and increased damage for each of your aura or herald skills affecting you. So that would be 4 auras if I have the Malevolence up at the time, and that pretty much is the build. There's a lot of little things you can do in maps for single target with the Withering Step to get extra withers down, Plague Bearer so that you can just have an extra source of damage. The Tornado, I love the Tornado. The Purple Tornado is the best Tornado in my opinion. I just love the Purple Tornado. And then something to watch out for on this build is monsters have a chance to avoid poisons. Like this mod on this map means half the time I hit an enemy, I'm not doing damage to it. So that's kind of yikes. Now, I did not invest in any more spell block than the shield gives me. I only have 34% chance to block spells, but when I do block spells, I take 65% of the damage of that hit. So not being perfectly capped on the spell suppression's okay. And with Grace, I have this Sin's Rebirth. That's a Stibnite Flask that gives me extra evasion rating. Not the most evasion rating, but I also have 44% physical damage reduction from armor given the shield and the buffs that I've stacked through that. And I'm going to throw in this race course with a Constrictor in it with extra damage and speed. Get to see what a boss is looking like here. Yeah, and like I like, it feels very satisfying to clear with this because of how it just ricochets through a pack of enemies, and then there's like everything will be poisoned. It's fantastic. They all just will die, and then I can blow them up because I have a obliteration wand, and I've really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to clear the maps with this. Not to mention the Purple Tornado, which cruise right on through. The pops sounds are so cool as well. Spraying shards everywhere. And it definitely sprays a lot. I'm curious here if in the map this says anything different. Yeah, still only says 27% crit chance. So I guess like when I was looking through this tree, there isn't the greatest amount of crit chance that I grabbed. I have this extra bit against blinded enemies that wouldn't show in there. But survivability on the build feels good. Probably drop Acuity for more crit chance and depth perception, though you lose some speed. But now we get to see it single target. I'll turn the shrines off. I'm gonna pop the Tornado right when he pops, and then we're gonna hit it. And the sniper's mark you see on the single target here, like I'm getting my shields to split in multiple directions as sniper's mark does. That the only way that those extra projectiles do anything is with Avenging Cascade, which has gotten nerfed, so I actually removed it from this build for this guide and put Corruption on. Now originally those shields would come back through me, but they kind of have to hit a wall in order to get any shards off. So it's not really getting it done there. But we'll throw in the Malevolence, hit the Plague Bearer, and this is a bunch of extra damage that I can get off on the boss if I can keep it in this ring. A Withering Step for some extra wither, get as much damage out as possible, and I have good chaos resistance here, so the poisons, this degen, it's really not hurting me that bad, and I have such good life flask uptime that it's good. Now here, it's summoned additional enemies, and now I get to get blown up by a frog. What I was about to say was I can chain through the enemies and get a bunch of sprays off and actually have some decent poison for a second here on the boss, and the Tornado can also poison because I have a 100% chance to poison on hits against cursed enemies. And then the chest, the Cosprey's Will, allows me to have both the Sniper's Mark and the Despair on the enemy at the same time. Also very helpful. Pushed all the flasks there for a second. And do another Plague Bearer. But yeah, this is a good showcase of this build isn't quite it when it comes to bossing. It's just really satisfying map clear. Full Purple Tornado. At the end of the day, it'll also get this done. So if this was the only character I had in the league, I can manage to kill these bosses. Like, it will kill them. It's just not going to be quickly. Another Plague Bearer, and then I do got Calling Strike against the marked enemy here, so real close. Anytime now. There we go. And boss dead. And that is the Poison Spectral Shield Throw Pathfinder build. And I think that is it. So, I'd like to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, definitely hit the like button, as it really helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss more videos from me. If you'd like to help support my channel, please consider using the super thanks, the heart icon just below the video, or by joining to become a member. And I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.